When we talk about relationships, especially the ones that leave us feeling like we're standing on the edge of something fragile, never quite sure if we step forward or back, we have to start by understanding what's really happening beneath the surface. Because here's the thing. People don't pull away just to hurt us. They pull away because somewhere along the way, their nervous system learned that closeness isn't safe. And if we want to navigate that tender space with any kind of grace, we have to start by seeing them clearly. Avoiding attachment isn't about you. It's not a rejection of your worth, your love, or how much you have to offer. It's a survival strategy, a way of moving through the world that says, if I keep my distance, I can't be swallowed up by someone else's needs. If I don't rely too much, I won't be disappointed. If I don't let anyone in too deep, I won't lose myself. And that makes so much sense, doesn't it? Because love is terrifying when you've learned that it comes with strings or smothering or the quiet erosion of your own voice. But here's where it gets tricky. The very things we do to say, I'm here, I care, the texts, the plans, that we need to talk conversations, those are often the things that send an avoidant person retreating faster. It's not because they don't want connection. It's because their blueprint for love says connection equals loss of control. And nothing triggers that panic like feeling like they're being backed into a corner, even if that corner is just your aching, open heart. So how do we work with that? We start by paying attention to the quiet cues. The way they might share a piece of themselves sideways through a song, a joke, a story about their day that isn't about emotions but still lets you in. The way they need space after vulnerability, not because they're done with you, but because they're recalibrating. And if we can meet that without taking it personally, without chasing or freezing them out, something shifts. Because the paradox is this, avoidant folks often crave closeness just as deeply as anyone else. They just need to believe it's on their terms, that they won't disappear into someone else's expectations, that they can come and go without being punished for it. And when we can hold that space, not as doormats, but as people who are solid enough to say, I'm here when you're ready without desperation, that's when the real magic happens. Let's talk about space, not the cold, empty kind, but the kind that breathes, the kind that says, you can exist near me without being consumed by me. Because if there's one thing that terrifies an avoidant heart, it's the feeling of being trapped, not just physically, but emotionally. The moment they sense someone's grip tightening, their instinct is to slip away, not because they don't care, but because their entire wiring screams that freedom is survival. So what do we do with that? We learn the art of presence without pressure. We stop conflating consistency with constant. You don't have to fill every silence to prove you're there. In fact, sometimes the most powerful way to say I'm not going anywhere is to simply let the silence be. Send the text that doesn't demand a reply. Saw this and thought of you with no follow-up guilt. Make the plan that's easy to adjust, no pressure, but I'd love to see you when you're up for it. These small acts build something profound. Trust that closeness doesn't mean losing autonomy. But here's where we stumble. We think giving space means disappearing entirely, that if we pull back, we have to vanish into some emotional witness protection program. And that's not it. Avoidants aren't looking for absence. They're looking for safety. And safety lives in the balance between I'm here and I'm not crowding you. It's the difference between a closed door and one that's cracked open, just enough to let them know they can step through when they're ready. I'll tell you a secret. Avoidants often test the waters in the quietest ways. They'll send a meme after weeks of silence, mention a memory you shared, show up in some tiny, almost invisible gesture that says, I'm still here too. And when we respond with warmth, not overwhelmed, not where have you been, but a simple, that made me smile, we reinforce the very thing they crave, connection without change. This isn't about playing games. It's about respecting that love isn't a hostage situation. It's saying, you can have all the room you need, and I'll still be right here. Not waiting, but living. and leaving the light on just in case. You ever notice how the most profound trust isn't built in grand declarations, but in the quiet, unremarkable moments? The way someone remembers how you take your coffee, or texts to say they're running late instead of leaving you hanging, or follows through on the tiny promise they made about nothing in particular. That's the glue. And for someone with an avoidant attachment style, that glue isn't just nice, it's everything. Because their entire relationship with closeness has been shaped by unpredictability, by love that felt like a storm, sometimes overwhelming, sometimes absent, never something you could set your watch by. So if we want to quietly invite them back into connection, we have to become the opposite of that storm. We have to become the steady ground. Not perfect, not flawless, but reliable in our presence. That means no emotional whiplash, no hot and cold, no punishing them for needing space, no love that feels like it might vanish if they say the wrong thing. It means being the person who responds with the same calm tone, whether they text back in 5 minutes or 5 days. Not because we don't care, but because we're teaching their nervous system a new truth. You can come and go, and I won't turn into someone you don't recognize. Here's the thing about avoidance. They're hyper-attuned to inconsistency. They'll notice if your warmth disappears the moment they set a boundary. They'll clock if your no pressure comes with a side of silent resentment. And that's why small, steady gestures land so much harder than big, dramatic ones. The meme you send every Thursday because you know it makes them laugh. The way you don't take it personally when they cancel plans, but still gently re-extend the invitation next time. Where you hold their fragile moments without making a big deal out of it. I'm glad you told me, instead of finally you opened up. This isn't about being a doormat. It's about proving through action that you're a safe harbor, that your care isn't contingent on them performing closeness the right way. And when that proof stacks up, when they see that you're not going to mirror the chaos they've come to expect from relationships, something loosens in them. They start to believe that maybe, just maybe, they can dip a toe into vulnerability without being pulled under. Let me tell you about the quiet magic of indirect invitations. You know those moments when someone shares something small, a story about their childhood, a song that moved them, a passing thought, and suddenly, without any fanfare, you feel closer to them? That's the sweet spot we're aiming for with avoidant folks. Because here's the truth. Avoidants don't resist connection. They resist feeling cornered by connection. The moment something feels like an emotional demand, we need to talk. Tell me how you feel. Why won't you open up? Their defenses go up. But when the invitation comes sideways, when it feels like an option rather than an obligation, that's when the walls start to soften. Think about it like this. If vulnerability is a room, avoidants need to know they can stand near the doorway first. They need to see that the room is safe, that no one's going to lock the door behind them. And the way we show that isn't by dragging them inside, it's by leaving the door open and casually mentioning how nice the light is in there. It's sharing something small about ourselves first. I've been feeling a little overwhelmed lately, so I've been taking these long walks. They help me clear my head. No pressure, no expectation, just an offering. And when we do that consistently, without resentment, when they don't match our vulnerability right away, we create a rhythm that says, you can share when you're ready. I'm not keeping score. Humor is another secret doorway. Laughter disarms. It creates connection without the weight of serious talk. A well-timed inside joke, a playful tease about an old memory. These are ways to bridge the gap without making the avoidant feel like they're being asked to cross it all at once. And nostalgia is golden. Remember when we got lost in that rainstorm? Isn't a demand for emotional intimacy. It's a shared moment that already exists, already feels safe. It's a way to remind them of connection without asking for anything new. And the key here is to pay attention to what I call micro openings. The avoidant person who mentions in passing that they're tired, not as a complaint, just a fact, the offhand comment about a project at work that's stressing them. These aren't bids for deep conversation, but they are tiny hands testing the water. And how we respond in these moments with simple acknowledgement, that sounds tough, with no pressure to elaborate, teaches them that small steps toward connection won't automatically trigger a flood of expectations. Now, this isn't about walking on eggshells. It's about understanding that for some people, vulnerability needs to be a whisper before it can be a conversation. And when we honor that pace, when we create space for connection to grow instead of demanding it bloom on our timeline, something beautiful happens. The avoidant starts to believe that maybe, just maybe, opening up won't cost them their sense of self. Here's something counterintuitive about human connection. The more someone feels free to walk away, the more likely they are to choose to stay. This is especially true for avoidant individuals. Their entire defense system is built around maintaining autonomy, not because they don't crave connection, but because they need to believe that connection won't come at the cost of losing themselves. The secret to engaging an avoidant isn't in grand romantic gestures or dramatic declarations. It's in sparking their natural curiosity while respecting their need for independence. Think about how we're drawn to interesting people at parties. Not the ones who cling to us, but the ones who seem fully engaged in their own fascinating conversations across the room. That same energy works wonders with avoidant attachment styles. Try this. Instead of saying, we never talk anymore, share something interesting from your world. I just started this pottery class. Turns out I'm terrible at centering clay, but it's kind of hilarious. No pressure for them to respond in any particular way, just an open door they can walk through if they choose. Or ask an open-ended question about something you know matters to them. How's that project you were working on coming along? The key is in the lightness, it's an invitation, not an interrogation. Shared activities can be another gentle pathway to reconnection. Not we need to spend quality time together, but I'm going to check out that new exhibit you mentioned. Want to join me? The focus is on the activity first, the connection second. This takes the pressure off and allows the avoidant person to engage without feeling emotionally exposed. Remember that for avoidance, vulnerability often comes through the side door. They might share more about their thoughts on a book than their feelings about your relationship. They might open up about their passion for photography before they'll talk about their childhood wounds. These are all valid forms of connection. When we recognize and appreciate these sideways offerings of intimacy, we create more opportunities for them to feel safe being close. The beautiful paradox is this: by giving an avoidant person genuine space to be themselves, by not demanding they meet our emotional needs in specific ways, we create the exact conditions where real connection can flourish. It's not about manipulation. It's about creating an environment where two whole people can choose each other freely without fear of being consumed. Let me tell you about the most radical act of love when it comes to reconnecting with an avoidant, the act of turning inward. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? When we feel someone pulling away, every fiber of our being wants to chase, to fix. But here's the hard truth. That desperate energy often pushes them further away. What if, instead of focusing on how to bring them back, we focused on becoming someone worth returning to? This isn't about playing games or pretending not to care. It's about recognizing that we can't negotiate or convince someone into authentic connection. The avoidant person in your life needs to come to that choice themselves in their own time. And the most powerful thing you can do, become deeply, unshakably rooted in your own worth. When you stop making them the center of your emotional universe, something miraculous happens. You stop radiating that anxious energy that makes avoidance want to flee. I want to be clear. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about developing what I call warm detachment. That beautiful middle ground where you care deeply, but your sense of self isn't contingent on their response. You text when you genuinely want to share something, not because you're hoping for a particular reply. You make plans that excite you, whether they join or not. You live your life fully, not as a strategy to win them back, but because you deserve a rich, vibrant existence regardless of their choices. Here's what I've learned about avoidant people. They have a sixth sense for desperation. They can smell neediness from a mile away, and it triggers their deepest fears about being consumed. But confidence, self-contained joy, that's magnetic. When they see you thriving, not as a performance, but as your authentic self, it creates a pull rather than a push. They start to wonder what you've discovered that they might be missing out on. The hardest part is the waiting, the silence, where you don't know if they'll ever come closer. That's where your work happens, in sitting with that discomfort without acting from it, in trusting that if this connection is meant to be, it will find its way when both people are ready. And if it's not, you're already becoming the kind of person who won't just survive, but thrive. This journey asks everything of you. It asks you to confront your own attachment wounds, to sit with your vulnerability, to resist the urge to control outcomes. But here's the gift. Whether or not this particular person reconnects, you emerge more whole, more capable of the kind of secure, generous love that doesn't demand proof of its worth. And that transformation, that's the real victory.